Lunar New Year 2020 is here, guys, and no hyperbole. These are two of the strongest units to ever be on the same banner together. It's be fantastic for new players and veteran players and mid-tier players all alike. If you're looking for either a crazy good support or a amazing, easily to gear damage dealer, something we haven't seen since the 6-star Leela era. Remember how easy Leela was to make powerful when she came out as a 6-star character. This is going to be the two units that you'll be aiming for. This is going to probably be the strongest Lunar New Year banner we've ever gotten in FFBE. And we're going to start out with Emperor Fu, going over Emperor Fu, his TMR, his super TMR, and all the cool stuff that he could do. Emperor Fu is like if you stuffed Sylvie and King Regis together in a unit. That's the TLDR on Emperor Fu if you're not interested in him, but he is an extremely strong unit that you can get your hands on if you're looking for support. The TMR here is the ingredient of warfare. It's an accessory with 15 attack, 15 defense, 30 magic, and 30 spirit, and then gives you the effect of ancient warfare. And basically what this is going to do is give you various 20% buffs if you're equipped with various gear. So a robe will give you 20% MP, a sword will give you attack, a staff will give you magic and spirit, a helm will give you defense 20%, and a light armor will give you HP. And these are all 20% buffs there. You can't activate all of them at the same time. You can activate most of them. It's not the most crazy TMR, but if you're a newer player, you'll probably get some use out of it, but it'll probably get replaced eventually for you guys out there. Now, for a tank, you can put this on a tank, and if you had like a staff with a helmet and some light armor, you'll have magic, spirit, defense, and HP all 20% on the ancient warfare there. That's probably where the best spot you're going to be putting this on a character like that. You can get some cool stuff in here, maybe some tanky mages if they're wearing light armor, but once again, it's going to be a mage with light armor. Yeah, TLDR, it's okay. All right, the third Nirvana is the super team right here. It's a staff with 120 magic and 140 spirit. It is the light elemental. It's got a light elemental affinity with it if you're doing physical attacks with this weapon equipped. It has two effects, Imperial Legacy and Imperial Air. One of them is for Emperor Fu only. Imperial Legacy is going to give you 30% magic, 30% spirit, 30% evil magic, 60% additional damage when evoking any of the espers in the game, as you can see there. So it's pretty good, nothing super crazy. It does have magic and spirit and evil magic on there, and it's got pretty good raw stats for both magic and spirit. So pretty good for summoners. Summoners, though, not the greatest things in the game. Imperial Air here, it will auto-cast it for Emperor Fu at the start of the battle. And if you want to know what that is really quick, Imperial Air is going to just give you a 5 evocation gauge every turn at the start of the fight. So it's going to help him do some of his other stuff, but honestly, the really good skills he has access to don't really need all of that crazy amount of Esper gauge. Plus, he already has ways to fill your Esper gauge. So pretty good super team are nothing to chase after for here. But Emperor Fu here, his weapon selection, staves, rods, harps, whips, throwing weapons. He has hats and helmets, light armor and robes. Obviously, he's got to wear these 4 different things because that's what his TMR gives buffs for, those 4 different things there. Now, he does have, going into his skills, it is a pretty packed kit, but I'm going to break it down as quick as possible for you guys here. Now, he has these strategy skills, all right, and these summons skills. Now, the first 4 we're going to be going over are going to all work the same way here. They're going to have a base effect, and then they're going to have an upgraded effect if you use them to turn as or the turn after you use one of his cooldown skills. The cooldown skill is the Final Imperial Edict, and they're going to work this way. So, for example, Strategy Square Formation is going to give your team for 5 turns a 130% attack buff and a 60% defense break for 5 turns to all enemies. If it's the upgraded version, which is used after the cooldown skill, the buff is going to be 180% and the defense break is going to be 70%. And both these buffs, whether they're upgraded or non-upgraded, are going to last 5 turns, and they're always AoE. And they're always going to work the same way. So if you get an offensive buff and the respective defensive break. So if you have an attack buff, you're going to get a defense break. If you're going to get a magic buff, you're going to get a spirit break. If you're going to get a spirit buff, you're going to get a magic break. And if you're going to get a defense buff, you're going to get an attack break. So he's got strategy square formation, which is the attack buff, defense break, strategy wedge formation, which is the magic buff, spirit break, strategy hook formation, which is the spirit buff, magic break, strategy circle formation, which is the defense buff and the attack break. So that's those skills right there. He does have summons skills as well. These skills, guys, most of them, especially these ones that do damage, I don't like them. I don't think they're good. They're not really going to be used in a lot of ways. They're Chaos Wave Awakened scales here, as you can see, Killing Rage, or Killing Rage here. Fire evoke damage 4.4 multiplier, takes 1 Esper Orb. You can't triple cast these skills. He's locked to dual cast, so nothing really crazy to talk about there. He does have Imperial Confidant, which is an Entrust, but his LB is actually pretty expensive, and he can't dual cast this skill either. So he does have Entrust, but he's not actually a good Entruster there. So that's probably the weakest part about him. He does have summons killing wrestling here. Restore MP 222 to all allies, and I am so like slurring the word killing. I'm just gonna call it Kieran. All right, I'm just gonna call it Kieran. It's gonna save me a lot of headache here. This is gonna give 220 MP to all allies, cures attack, defense, magic, and spirit break, and cures all status ailments. It's gonna cost 5 Esper age. For your 10 max that you can have in your party. It's a very good skill here if you want to cast on your party here with the Summons, Cure, and Blessing here. Now he has Strategy Warcry, which increases physical killers and magical killers for beasts and humans by 30% for 3 turns to all allies. So a small little thing there, nothing super crazy, very similar to what Regis has, but Regis is 75% for humans, demons, fairies, fairies and undead, something like that. Very strong. He's got a little bit of it there. Now he has Strategy Snake Formation here. Attack and defense buff, 150% for 3 turns to all allies. Mitigate physical damage by 30% and give you a resistance to attack and defense break by 100% as well. He also has Arrow Formation, which is a magic spirit buff of 150%, magic mitigation 30%, and magic and spirit break resistance of 100% for 3 turns to all allies there. He also has Strategy 5 Formation, which is decrease attack, defense, magic, and spirit by 65% for 3 turns to all enemies. So he has an on-demand backup 65% break there. He also has Imperial Orders and Imperial Summons. One of these will allow you to dual cast the strategy skills. The other one will allow you to dual cast the summon skills. And the one that allows you to dual cast the strategy skills also lets you dual cast that very important final Imperial Edict, which is the cooldown skill that we'll get to, and really is what kind of ties him together as a character. Summons Kieran Fury here is Avalanche Kick, which is a new chaining frame family, but actually the new unit who has it, which is the damage dealer, Xuan Wu Qing Long, don't actually really use that to do damage, but this is another skill that they have, evoke damage 8.8 multiplier, nothing crazy there. We have Guard Appointment here, 100% or 100% chance to not really be used here, but 100% cover to 1 ally. So 1 ally will get a 100% chance to cover AoE magic damage with a 30% mitigation for 3 turns and a 3000 HP berry. It's a 10-turn cooldown available on turn 1. You can use this if your magic tank goes down. You have to raise them on your turn. This is pretty much the only way you're going to be using this skill. You can't turn someone else into a permanent magic tank on your team. You're not turning your healer into your magic tank for forever or anything of that nature. It doesn't give the craziest mitigation. It's 30%. Most AoE covers are 60 to 70%. Mitigation there on average, but you will be able to use this if you're using him as your proper support and something happens and your tank dies and you have to actually just cast full life on them. Instead of your tank not being able to cover that turn and you just being shit out of luck, basically, you can go in there and use Guard Appointment and get their cover back up so they can survive and take damage for your team while you're recovering there. He has Strategy 8 Trigrams East Formation, 6-turn cooldown available on turn 1. These are some other temporary buffs he has. 80% Ice Wind, Light, and Water resist for 4 turns to all allies, and heals 10,000 HP with a 6 times healing mod over 4 turns to all allies there. He also has Strategy 8 Trigrams West Formation, 6-turn cooldown available on turn 1, increases Fire, Lightning, Earth, and Dark resist of 80% for 4 turns to all allies with a 500 MP with a 0.1 healing mod split over 4 turns to all allies there to your MP. So the HP MP refresh and every resistance in the game right there, which is very strong. He can't do this full time for you, but 4 turns out of 6 turns, having 1 unit alone to do 80% resist for every element in the game is very, very powerful. And you can also maybe, use this with some other units. Maybe your magic tank of choice in the future, you get this unit and you're looking for CG Cecil, who also can do some elemental resistances as well. You can kind of play a hot potato between the two of them and that sort of form and fashion and function while you're doing a trial and make sure that your elemental resistance buffs never fall off. He also has Summons Kieran Aura, which costs 6 Esper Gauge crystals here, as well as 90 MP. Gives 10 limit burst gauge to all allies except for the caster, and gives everyone 300% high tide for 3 turns as well. This is also a very, very strong skill here. You can dual cast it if you dual cast summon skills, but since it costs 6 Esper Gauge crystals, you're not dual casting this specific skill with itself, because remember guys, it's 10 Esper Gauge crystals is the full bar, so you can't, 6 plus 6 is 12. It goes over the maximum of 10 there, so that's not happening there. We also have Summon Loyal Guardians, 3-turn cooldown available on turn 1, fire evoke damage 15 times mod all enemies, chain finishing skill, not that cool, not a big deal. It's all about his support stuff. And then we get to Final Imperial Edict here, 6-turn cooldown available on turn 1, and increases the evocation gauge by 10, which is going to lock the ability to use his other support skills that are the summon skills later on. It's going to put a 40% general damage mitigation on your entire party for 4 turns to all allies. Increase your limit burst gauge high tide by 200% for 4 turns to all allies as well. And then it unlocks summons Call for Wind, summons a Kieran Execution, and summons Kieran Protection for 5 turns to the caster. And then his final skill here is Celestial Destiny, which costs his entire limit burst gauge, but increases the limit burst gauge of all allies by 100 straight up. Just going to fill everyone else's limit burst gauge except for himself there. And so you can do this on turn 2 if you want to with Celestial Destiny. And we're going to go down through one of his important passives really quick, is that he's going to be able to start the fights with a skill called Imperial Mandates, which is going to be triple cast for any of his strategy skills as well as any of his 1 cooldown skill, I should say. So you can start the fight. He can start fights very, very, very easily, where you cast Final Imperial Edict, so you're going to get the 40% damage mitigation, get the high tide, you're going to fill up your evocation gauge, you're going to unlock your other bonus skills for the following turn with the summons, Call for Wind, Kieran Execution, and Kieran Protection. And then you can go in here and start off very either offensively or defensively. You can pick 2 of the strategy skills on top of that, because remember, you're triple casting this turn, and these will be the buffed versions. So you can go in here, you can get your 180% spirit buff, 180% defense buff, 70% magic break, 70% attack break, and you're gonna get 40% general mitigation in high tide, all from him, all on the first turn of the game there. So that's very powerful. And then the turn after that, remember, those skills will still be upgraded. So if you want to go ahead, right, and give yourself an attack and magic buff the turn afterwards, if you want to, and do a defense and spirit break, that's something that you can do there as well if you want the full stat break. Typically, a lot of you guys out there will be only wanting one of the 2 buffs / breaks on the offensive side, right? If you're using physical damage dealers, you can go ahead on turn 2, use the attack buff with the defense break, and then go about your business with any of your other strategy skills here. So you put up your elemental resistances, you can go ahead and put up your MP refresh on top of that, or put up your physical magical damage mitigation, your attack, defense, magic, spirit break, things of that nature. So he's got a lot of stuff to do. Like I said, like Sylvie / Regis kind of combined is his kit there. Now the rest of his passives, he can summon any espers, so you can summon Fenrir, you can summon whoever you want to summon that are good summoning espers, Carbuncle, Phoenix. He's going to have access to all of them. Lakshmi, right? Lakshmi is another character that people, or another esper that people will put in their party somewhere. So he's gonna have the other utility of having that. So he's not really a healer, but he fills up his limit or the evocation gauge pretty relatively easily over time, especially with stuff like the Final Imperial Edict. You're gonna have that to play around with if you so desire. So he's going to have that emergency Lakshmi heal for you guys there. He has Evil Magic, MP%, Magic and Spirit with a Robe, Evil Magic, MP and Magic 20% here. He's going to be immune to Silence, Sleep, Confusion, and Petrify. Esper bonus stats, HP and Spirit. Casts Enduring Bloodline every turn, 30% Spirit with a Staff. Defense, Magic, HP, and Spirit buffs here. All espers evoke damage 100% there, so he actually can summon espers and do big damage with espers. But honestly, guys, espers just don't do good damage, even with 100% evoke damage. I mean, it's just not that good. It's just not that good anymore. Increases equipment, magic, and spirit when single wielding on any weapon. So he's got true double hand spirit, more bonus stats from espers. Magic and spirit, evil magic, espers bonus stats. Imperial mandates is very powerful. We talked about that. You're gonna want his trust ability for that access on turn 1. He also has decreases MP used by 30% as a passive as well. So once you hit 101 and you have his trust ability on, you're gonna notice a pretty substantial, 30% decrease in every skill that he will actually cast. So that's gonna be pretty amazing there. Defense of 20% increase, and he has Emperor's left hand and Emperor's right hand every turn if Baihu and Zuque is alive, and if Xuan Wu and Qing Long are alive. Totally butchered all those names, but sorry for that. But this is pretty cool. Sort of thing. We'll get to those as well. He's immune to stop, increases evil magic 50% again, magic and spirit 100% when single wielding a weapon there. So he's got 150% true double hand spirit and 150% true double hand magic as well. So you can probably poke out a little bit of damage with some of his unlock skills down here, which we're about to get to. So Enduring Bloodline restores 20% HP to the caster. That's the auto cast skill. Imperial Mandates is the triple cast. He doesn't have a way to re-unlock it. So just like Regis, he starts with Imperial Mandates. He starts with triple cast. And he's got dual cast to the rest of the battle there. He has summons, Kieran Execution, which is actually a 20.5 times multiplier chain finishing skill here. So It is a general multiplier here, a general evocation. It's not 100% spirit or 100% magic. It's going to use your magic and your spirit. He's got a lot of base evo damage. That's cool. Remember, guys, evo damage doesn't use killers or anything of that nature. If you want to eke out a little bit extra damage, this is going to be the one that you want to go for here. Summons Call for the Wind here increases evocation gauge by 4. So like I said, if you have nothing else for him to do, you can go ahead and use evocation gauge fill rates to get access to summoning Fenrir for some AoE evasion plus full stat buffs. You can summon Lakshmi for some big heals that way every once in a while. But speaking of AoE evasion here, he has summons Kieran Protection, negates 3 physical attacks for 3 turns to all allies. This also costs your full Esper gauge there as well. So 3 stacks of Mirage for 3 turns to your entire party is another fantastic way to negate damage there. And this is a summon skill, so this actually is dual castable. Obviously, you can't dual cast this skill with itself, but if you have a full Esper gauge, you can go ahead, summon Kieran Protection, use it, and then right after it summons Call for the Wind and get the 4 out of the 10 you need for later on. Emperor's left hand is going to give him an attack and magic buff with a physical damage mitigation, and Emperor's right hand is going to give him a defense and spirit buff with a magic damage mitigation, and this is for the other 2 Lunar New Year units, the 2 monks, or the 4 monks, the 2 other duo units. And then Emperor's Crest gives you an evocation gauge of 2 per turn. And then lastly, but not least, is Borrowing the East Wind, which is going to give you a full Esper gauge when you cast it at the cost of 60 limit burst crystals. It also gives your party a 200% attack, defense, magic, and spirit buff for 5 turns to all allies, as well as 150 MP. So very, very strong character, Emperor Fu is. Very strong support. He's got access to all of the, pretty much the staples. He's got the attack, defense, magic, spirit, break, resist. He's got the ability to cure all status ailments. He's got the ability to break for you. He's got the ability to buff for you. All the way around the world. He's got some extra stuff he can do with the damage mitigations. He's a fantastic character, and as you can see, he's, even if you're a newer character or newer player, sorry, he has a 65% on-demand break here at 6-star for you guys, and double cast for his 2 different skills. So if you're only get 1 copy of him and you're a new player, he's gonna be fantastic for you, and he's gonna be usable as a 6-star. Now, speaking of a fantastic character, we have Xuan Wu and Qing Long. Dude, I don't know. I'm going to butcher that till the end of time. These characters are so good, so broken, so busted. Let's get into exactly why. And number 1, they're extremely easy to gear. Starting with their TMR, which is absolutely amazing for them. Fantastic. It's the Jade Bracers. The Jade Bracers, 125 spirit, 30 attack, and the effect of Spiritual Affinity, which is 20% additional spirit on top of that. So fantastic, fantastic, fantastic weapon for them. It's a fist weapon with spirit on it. They are a true dual wield damage dealer that uses spirit for their damage. So they're going to be doing spirit damage, which is checked. It's very similar to magic damage if you're not familiar with that concept. So they're going to be using spirit as their offensive stat. It's going to be checked against the enemy's spirit, but they're still going to use physical killers. They're going to still be able to use dual wield. They're still going to be able to use, you know, normal man-eater plus, all 125% man-eater from espers like Diabolos, etc. So their TMR, absolutely insane. Their super TMR is also really good for them, but totally unnecessary at the same time. So Heavenly Presence here increases their spirit by 80% when equipped with a fist weapon, which you're going to be doing with their own TMR, and then also gives them 30% limit burst damage. You don't really need to use the limit burst that much, and they're very easy to gear. You can actually, with no super TMRs whatsoever, hit 400% spirit with 2 open materia slots for killer materia. So you can put in Beast Killer, Dragon Killer, or whatever it is that you want, Reaper Killer, you know, Bug Killer, whatever it is that you want while hitting these spirit caps. So very easy to gear characters with a full TMR build here. I'll go down the line here, their equipment selection. They have knives and swords and spears, and well, not spears, but staves and rods and maces and fist weapons. 99% of the time, if you guys are TMR only, you're just going to be using 2 of their own TMR. And remember, if you get the ability to 7-star them, you also have the ability to get 2 of their own TMR, right? You're going to be able to get the one from the 7-star character, and you'll be able to get the TMR as well from the prism that's left behind when you break that character down. So make sure you get 2 of their TMR if you're looking to use them as a TMR only build there. If you have some sort of a really strong super TMR staff, then go for that as well. Just make sure the staff doesn't have an element on it, because that might come back to bite you if you're not using the elemental imbue that staff has on it. I know a lot of people are getting ready to use Lena's super TMR on them. Remember, guys, Lena's super TMR has light on it, so if you're not using light imbue, you're cutting your damage down by a lot. Armor selection here as well: hats, clothes, light armor, and robes. And then innate abilities, let's get right down to it here. They have some tanking capabilities. That's not what they're here for. Black Totus instigation here is 100% provoke with 35% damage mitigation. I don't care. Black Tortoise Chi Strike here has an attack and magic break of 60% and 1 negation of physical attack for 3 turns all allies. So if you want an emergency attack and magic break with some AoE Mirage, that's there as well. But these characters are really here to do the big damage. Starting with the big damage here, we have the ability to dual cast Azure Dragon combos as well as Black Tortoise combos. Black Tortoise stuff, pretty much the 2 skills we just talked about there. We have Azure Dragon as our first one here, which is Bolting Strike, which is their main chaining family. This is not their main damage dealing move though, but it is a 60% defense and spirit break if that's something that you're looking for. Now we have Elemental Arts, we have Avalanche Kick, Whirlwind Kick, Infernal Fist, and Whirlpool Kick. So the first 2 ones we have here, we have Avalanche Kick and Whirlpool Kick. These are going to be abilities that do ice damage or water damage and are going to have secondary effects of the Imperil. So we have an ice attack here that is 80% Ice Imperil for 5 turns and increases the LB gauge fill rate by 150% for 3 turns to all allies as well. There is no imbue attached to this skill either though. We also have Whirlpool Kick, which is the same thing except slightly different. It's 80% Water Imperil for 5 turns to 1 enemy and a defense and spirit break resist of 100% for 3 turns to all allies there. We have Black Tortoise Great Wall, which gives you the chance to protect 1 ally. So pretty much like Gladiolus, a single cover from all damage with 30% damage mitigation and gives you 500 HP barrier. You're not really going to be using this stuff. You can. It's kind of interesting, sort of. It's like Aloha Lastwell / Gladiolus, a single cover, but these characters do way too much damage, in my opinion, to be fooling around with crazy stuff like that. Now let's get into their main stuff here. Infernal Fist and Whirlwind Kick. So this is going to be the first one, Infernal Fist, fire magic damage, 6.5 multiplier, bolting strike chaining frames, 80% fire imperil with a 5-turn fire imbue. Then Whirlwind Kick is the same thing, but instead of fire damage, it's wind damage. So 80% wind imperil, 80 as well as a 5-turn wind imbue for your team right here with the Xuan Wu Qing Long characters. We have Channeling the Dumai, which heals HP and MP over 3 turns to the caster and unlocks Tactical Fusion, which is their triple cast. Probably won't be using this too much, I would say, unless they die, but because they are stacking a bunch of spirit for damage, they're incredibly tanky. We're talking, without really even trying, full TMR build, like 15,000, 16,000 HP, somewhere around there. And after their self buff, like 3,300, that's 3,300 spirit. And if you have some other defense buff somewhere, I think they have right over like 1,000 defense there. So incredibly tanky character while doing way too much damage. Let's get into the damage stuff here. So we have Azure Dragon Fatal Acupoint, which is a 2-turn cooldown available on turn 2. You're going to be using this skill pretty much every other turn, and it's one of their main damage dealing skills. Physical damage with a beast and human killer buff of 100% for 1 turn to the caster. That's cast before the skill does damage. And then on top of that, it's a bolting strike skill. The first 8 hits are an 4.0 multiplier. The final hit is a 28 mod. That's a 32 times mod. But would you believe me if I told you that this was going to get an additional 16 times multiplier very easily? Starting turn 2, starting when you use this skill. Yes, very powerful. And that's 16. So this is 32 base. That's a 48 times multiplier you're casting every other turn. Now let's get into that special arts Azure Dragon Style. This is a skill you're using on turn 1. It's a 5-turn cooldown available on turn 1. For 5 turns, you're going to get a 70% spirit break for 5 turns to all enemies. You're going to get a 250% spirit buff for 5 turns to all enemies. You're going to get Tactical Fusion, which is triple cast for 5 turns. And then you get the very important part here. 5 turns of Azure Dragon Debilitating Acupoint, Azure Dragon Enhanced Chi, and Azure Dragon Winged Blessing. We'll go over those skills after this final skill here, which is going to be their big, bad, biggest damage skill probably in the game, considering that you can triple cast it. Special Arts Palm Strike. This is going to be used 3 times per battle. This is their Magnus ability, and I want to touch on this skill in 2 different ways here. So you can triple cast this skill, or you can go ahead and do something else. So let's talk about the skill real quick. It's a Bolting Strike. Those first 8 hits are a 10 times multiplier. That final hit is a 50 times multiplier. So they do have triple cast, but remember, they're also a true dual wield character. And this is a Magnus ability where you can use it 3 times per battle. which means you can actually select it as a skill and use it 3 times. So if you want to cast this all 3 times in one turn for huge, giant mega burst damage, you are allowed to do that, and that's going to be a 180 times multiplier, which is absolutely insane. Crazy damage. I think it's probably the highest raw mod from any skill in the game, period. With that, and they're true dual wield, and they do have true dual mastery. Now, the other thing, you can kind of abuse the fact that it says 3 uses per battle, because since they're a dual wield character, if you just select Special Arts Palm Strike by itself, and it's the only skill you use, you don't dual cast it, you don't do triple cast, you just use it 1 time. You just use it. Since you're dual wielding, your character's going to use the skill 2 times, but it's only going to count as 1 use, because dual just makes you attack a 2nd time. So you can effectively, if you want to spread this out over the course of 3 turns by using it 1 time each turn, get 6 casts off of it throughout a battle instead of 3. So however you want to use it is up to you, but it's huge burst damage, guys. Absolutely huge burst damage. Before we get into their passives, I want to go over their unlock skills for you while we're talking about the skills they can do here. So Tactical Fusion is their triple cast. Very powerful, very important. Their unlock skills here: Enhanced Chi, Bolting Strike skill, 12 times multiplier. Then it also has the secondary effect of increases the multiplier of Azure Dragon Debilitating Acupoint, Enervating Acupoint, Enhanced Chi, and Fatal Acupoint by 8.0 as well for 3 turns. This is where that 8.0 multiplier comes from, and it does turn into a 16.0 multiplier because remember, just like Debilitating Acupoint and Enervating Acupoint, those skills are backloaded. They have 2 different things, like this one down here, Debilitating Acupoint. The first 8 hits are a 2.0 multiplier. That last hit is a 14.0 multiplier. That 8.0 multiplier increase gets added to both of this. So this is going to be a 16 times mod increase down here as well, which is going to be your main filler damage dealing skill as well. So Azure Dragon Debilitating Acupoint, Bolting Strike, Fire and Wind Resist 100% in peril for 3 turns to all enemies. Magic damage 2.0 in the first 8 hits, Spirit scaling to all enemies. And then the final hit, magic damage 14.0 with Spirit scaling to all enemies. That 8.0 Enhanced Chi is going to apply to both of this. So it's going to be a 10.0 in the first 8 hits. And then it's going to be a whopping 22 in that final hit, which makes it collectively a 32 times multiplier per cast. And this is the worst ability that you're going to be using for damage outside of re-upping the multiplier with Enhanced Chi, which the first cast for Enhanced Chi is going to be a 12 times mod, and then it's going to be a 20 times mod since it actually buffs itself as well. So incredibly powerful there. And we also have Winged Blessing, which you can remove attack and magic break from your party if you want to, and give yourself a 100% attack and magic break resist while filling the limit burst gauge by 2 to 4 if you want some extra utility there. Limit burst wise, we have Tai Chi Strike. You probably won't be using this that much. It is a 36 times multiplier with Spirit scaling to all enemies. It also enables Debilitating Acupoint, Enhanced Chi, and Winged Blessing as well for 3 turns to the caster. It's also going to cost 40 limit burst crystals, and it also gives you 20 to 40 of those limit burst crystals back. They're not really a limit burst damage dealing character, but it does have a decent multiplier. It's just not super insane. Now moving back up to their passives really quick, they have dual wield, HP and MP 20%, LB gauge per turn, a high tide, defense and spirit, physical evasion, magical evasion, spirit equipped with a fist, 75% beast and human killer, the 6 times multiplier dual wield mastery. They also auto cast Exalted Entourage as Emperor Fu's alive and in your party, increases resistance to poison, paralysis, and disease. And then we have their trust ability here, which requires their TMR, but their TMR weapon is one of their better skills, or skills, one of their better pieces of equipment you can put on them unless you're using super TMR staves, or the super TMR for the other duo unit from last Lunar New Year. This can give you Enlightened Spirit as well as 40% Spirit, 20% HP and MP, and the all-important 50% true dual wield Spirit. So you definitely want to have either their TMR or super TMR on, get their TMR, throw it on, 50% true dual wield Spirit right there, 20% Spirit. And then Legendary Prowess, their final passive, Defense and Spirit 50%, HP 30%, 50% more True Dual Wield Spirit, and then they have a 100% chance to ignore fatal damage when your HP is above 1%, max 1 proc chance, and then you also have an extra 50% Beast and Human Killer. Humans are one of the most common enemy types in the game. Humans and demons, the top 2 most common enemy types. They have the Human Killer, Beasts, not the most common. They used to be super common, but they're still more prevalent than a lot of the other types of the game. But human is definitely one of the most common end game boss monster types that you'll come across in the game. As far as how tanky they get around, I think it's 170% base spirit if you're counting the spirit you get from having a fist weapon equipped. They have like 130-ish, somewhere around HP, and like 80% defense. So they're very, very, very tanky, very, 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 very strong, not hard to gear. They're incredibly, 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 incredibly potent for how easy it is to gear them. You just throw their TMR on, whatever high spirit hat you have on, whatever high spirit body you have on, and then you want spirit accessories. You know, something like Luna Freya's TMR with like 50 spirit and 20% spirit, something crazy like that. In the accessory slot would be very good. It's pretty easy after item roll to cap them out with their percentage spirit, and then there's only 100% true dual spirit that you can actually get in the game, so not really held back by you not being able to get that. They're balanced around the fact that there's only 100% spirit in the game for true dual spirit, and then 2 open materia slots, and they're going to be hammering some damage out. Very, very strong, very, very easy to use. Like a sample opener here, you start the battle, and you'll just go ahead and you'll dual cast Azure skills, and you'll go ahead and you'll special alerts Azure Dragon style, and then you can go on ahead and imbue yourself if you want to with either Infernal Fist or Whirlwind Kick. After that, you're going to have all of your stuff ready to go. You have your triple cast, you have your spirit buff, you're going to have all of the unlocked skills, and on turn 2, you have the choice that you want to either, you can just triple cast Special Arts Palm Strike if you want to. You can go down here and you can use Enhanced Chi into Debilitating Acupoint, and then remember, since it's turn 2, you'll use the Fatal Acupoint. Very easy to use, right? Every time this cooldown is available, Azure Dragon Style, you're going to be using that skill to unlock your triple cast. And then anytime Fatal Acupoint is up, you're going to be using that. And outside of that, you're just going to be making sure that the buff from Azure Dragon Enhanced Chi doesn't fall off. Very straightforward character. They have their own imbues. They have their own imperils, matching elements, 100%. Very strong, very easy to gear. I cannot say it enough. This character is banana sandwich, probably broken for how easy it is, and to gear them and how much damage they do. And by how much damage they do, I mean, if you compare them to any other characters in the game right now, they're in TMR only builds, they blow them out of the water for how much damage they do, with how tanky they are and how easy they are to gear. It's absolutely crazy. No one has been around the power level for how tanky they are and easy to gear, etc., 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 around the kind of content that's come out since, I want to say, like original Leela, 6-star Leela. And you guys remember how bonkers she was when she came out. Free to play Leela is busted, and she was very strong and very good for a long time, guys. So if you want to see more stuff like this, guys, let me know how you feel about Emperor Fu, the Imperial Heir, and I'm gonna butcher it again, Xuan Wu Qing Long, in the comment section below, guys. There's gonna be a bundle video out probably today as well. Some fan favorites are back. If you want to see more stuff like this, subscription button, notifications on. I know a lot of you guys have been problems with those notifications. I don't know why. I am glad when you tell me about it, though, because I have a righteous fury about it at YouTube. If you want to contribute to the channel as well and show the support, likes are appreciated. If you want to look for other ways, look in the description below. Thank you guys who choose to support, become the backbone of the channel. You guys help out tremendously so I can keep giving you guys the content you deserve. Be safe out there, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.